That movie nut here with a review for Cinema Paradiso, the 1988 Italian classic starring Philippe Noiret, Jacques Perrin, Antonia Attili, and Salvatore Cassio. The story follows Salvatore, a famous film director who receives a call one day that his old friend Alfredo, the town projectionist, has died. This causes him to flash back to his youth as a little boy and later as a teenager, growing up with the movies and becoming friends with Alfredo, as well as falling in love with a local rich girl. Eventually, he returns to the town to face his fears and uncover secrets, and learn a valuable life lesson about love. The acting all around is rock solid. Everyone here delivers a great performance, with special props going to Philippe Noiret as Alfredo, who I have to say is one of the best characters ever put on film. He's a town projectionist and there's a great lovability to him. He's just a humble, ordinary man who just wants to get on with his work until he meets this little kid. They start bonding and Noiret and the child actor have great chemistry. There's a sense of grandfatherly to grandchildly love between them, and it makes every scene that they're in together so warm and lovable, and they get some great little funny moments as well, most notably in a scene at a school when Alfredo has to resit an exam and he desperately tries to convince Salvatore, or as he's known as a child, Toto, to help him. And the other two actors who portray Salvatore, or Toto as he's frequently referred to throughout the film, don't shy off either, with both the teenage and the older actor giving him fine performances that make you feel like this is just one character going on a journey and not three different people playing him. And the rest of the cast, as I said, is filled with notables from European cinema who all deliver great performances and come off as very real and very human. None of them feel like they're reading off a script or phoning it in. They all feel genuine, and there's a sense of lovable warmth to it all that just makes them more interesting and more endearing, as well as significantly more enjoyable to watch on screen. And speaking of what's on screen, the cinematography is beautiful and the locations are almost postcard perfect. It's the classic image of Italy with the fields and the stone building, and there's just something about it that just makes it so endearing and wonderful to watch on screen. It gives the place a timeless, magical feel. Even when we go to the modern day and we see the town changing, it's still strangely lovable. And the Cinema Paradiso itself is nothing more than a humble building, yet its simplicity is part of its beauty and charm. And the cabin booth where the projections are done from is littered with nice little Easter eggs for film fans, including posters and stills from various classic films. As for the score by Ennio Morricone, what can I really say? It's Ennio Morricone. He is to Europe what John Williams is to America. The score here is a thing of beauty, with the main two themes, though frequently repeated throughout the film, never getting dull or tiring because they are so well orchestrated and so well written, one being very joyous and uplifting and just making you feel so giddy and warm, while the other is much more passionate, more to the point and more direct, and it just elevates the mood, and it really once again helps to this magical cinematic quality to it, given that this film is a love letter to cinema. And the music always in particular enhances scenes where we see the young Salvatore, or Toto, observing the magic of cinema and all the wonderful little tricks that Alfredo shows him, and it just fills you with such awe, and the moment is so complete, and there's no need to throw in hokey dialogue or anything. It just lets the music and the scene speak for itself, and it's a joy to look at. And finally, before I get into the big meat and potatoes, we're going to look quickly at the script. Even though this film is in Italian, I had absolutely no problem reading the subtitles, and even translated it's still very beautiful. None of the dialogue feels hokey or overly romantic, and it feels like real people talking. This isn't one of those scripty script movies where you can tell that the characters are saying things that they would never say. When a character says something strange or odd, it turns out that they're referencing a movie, again, part of the film's love letter to classic cinema. Alfredo's relationship is well fleshed out. The relationship between him and the girl later in the film is fleshed out. The relationship between him and his family is fleshed out. Everything is fleshed out. There are no cardboard characters here, and even when there are some background characters thrown in, they're always humorous and get something funny or likable to do. No one here behaves like a moron or a cardboard cutout at all. which is something that you don't very often see. And the thing is, much like films like Hugo and Matinee, which again were love letters to cinema by other directors, this film uses that to great effect. Here, the cinema, aside from being young Toto's primary love, it's also a background and, in a sense, a metaphor and a MacGuffin for his journey in life and the changes he goes through, and of course the subsequent love that he has with the local rich girl. Cinema here is symbolism. The romance of cinema is very much symbolic of his romance, but of course, unlike the romance in cinema, his will not go picture perfect. And that's what's so beautiful about it, is that even though it warms itself up and wraps itself up in this love letter to classic cinema and these old black and white films, it never feels overly cloying. It doesn't feel like the film is saying real life can be like the movies. In fact, the film is saying that real life takes a different course from the films, that nothing is ever going to go exactly as you want it to. That's an important life lesson here. Of course, that really comes into play when I talk about the big thing, which is the two cuts of the film, both the theatrical cut and the original cut, or as some of you might know it, the director's cut by director Giuseppe Tornatore. Now, as always, I'm not going to spoil every detail, but I will say, the thing about the differences between the director's cut and the theatrical cut is that first of all, the director's cut changes come into play in the second half. The first half, there's a couple of extra shots and maybe an extended line or two, but nothing that really rocks the boat. It's when we get into the second half that the film really changes into a different beast from its theatrical cousin. In a sense that the message changes and the theme of the movie changes. I'm not going to spoil exactly what it is, but it makes the story more rounded out. It makes it feel more complete. Now, personally, even though this is what the director wanted, I prefer the theatrical cut for the reason that the theatrical cut comes off as more realistic. At its core, even though I'm not going to say what happens, the thing about the theatrical cut is that it very much says that love doesn't go always according to plan, and that sometimes you have to face the past, and that things will not always go picture perfect. And there's a bitter sweetness to it all that just makes it a much more pungent and powerful film. In the director's cut, because things get much more resolved and the story feels completed, some of the edge is lost, some of the punch is lost, and it doesn't feel as realistic. It feels, well, funnily enough, much more like a film. To me, I like the distancing of reality and cinema in the original cut as opposed to the more close intertwining of the director's cut. Plus, in the director's cut, it puts Alfredo in a morally ambiguous position, and it makes Toto feel less proactive and much more like a puppet. To me, in the theatrical cut, he just took Alfredo's advice and took the initiative upon himself to take charge of his life and move on, whereas in the director's cut, it feels like Alfredo manipulated and forced him out of the town and onto the wider world. But those are my only real gripes. But I'm sure those of you who have seen and loved the director's cut probably have a counter argument to that, and I'm not saying the director's cut is bad by any means. To me, the ambiguity makes it more powerful. Ultimately, my best advice is buy the special or deluxe edition, depending on where you live, that comes with both cuts of the movie, and make the decision for yourself, since that is the best way than just watching one or the other. And so I must give Cinema Paradiso the only thing it truly deserves, a gold star. This is truly one of the most beautiful films ever made, and words alone cannot do it justice. It doesn't matter if you can't speak a word of Italian. Let your prejudices of foreign films go and give this a shot. It is truly worth it. Everything about the film is stellar, and I just cannot say enough good things about it. And well, this has been my 50th review. I hope you enjoyed it and expect many more to come, dear viewer. Bye.